Welcome to today's Seidokan Saturday. Now we begin bunkai for Pinan Godan. A couple of premises. The presentation of the hands to some people indicates that everything's going to be done from a wrist grab, and that's a great place to begin teaching. I rather prefer Patrick McCarthy's concept of habitual acts of physical violence, that each movement in the kata can be any number, a response to any number of types of attacks that pretty much people throughout history have done. Swinging punches, overhead attacks with or without weapons, chokes, grabs, etc., etc. Typically, rather than starting everything with wrist grabs, I'll alternate either with a wrist grab attack or with a punch type of attack. For example, with Pinan Godan, our first move is I'm facing forward, but if I do the kata in this direction, my first move is uchiyuke with a punch and then stepping in. And I mentioned last week regarding slow pressing movements that those typically tend to indicate a lock or a hold of some kind. And this movement in the kata in Pinan Godan is typically done slowly as opposed to the punch version in Naihanchi, which is done quickly. They could be either or, but typically and historically they tend to be done a certain way, which gives us an indication. All right, so first, if he's throwing a right punch, hey, I can just come to this side, make the block, punch, come over, and arm bar or pull in enough to elbow the head here. But I'm going to do with the wrist and the arm bar. So this is my basic. I'm just going to start with this. From the right punch, hey, blocking to this side. This hand is the danger. So it's important that I hikite and immediately punch. Okay? Take a left punch. I'm doing the exact same technique this time. Hey, same side and everything, but now I'm on the outside of the hand. In this punch, I might use my nakadaka ken, or just the straight punch here. Now, as I come over, this move becomes my tuidi hold. Okay? Then I could continue to my next block on this side, and it becomes a continuation from here. Continuation becomes a lock and a choke. Okay? So we can add on, but I'm just going to show a couple of the first two basic ways that I do it. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a right punch or a left punch or a wrist grab, it's going to be essentially the same motion. If he grabs my wrist straight across here, I'm pulling free here. I could instead make I could make a reversal here into my grab as I punch, break through, lock. Okay, but the very basic, simple version, hey, block, punch, coming through. Now I'm placing my arm just behind his elbow at the Golgi tendon of his triceps into the arm bar. Okay, that's the first very basic. The left hand punch is just the other side of the kata. From here, coming in, same thing, I'm punching. Coming through from this position, coming over, placing the arm bar. Okay? The next move in the kata, bend up his elbow, press forward his wrist, and that's where our position is. Okay? So the very first basic, block, punch, grab over the top, arm bar. Hey, block, punch, grab over the top, arm bar. Now, you can't grab his hand. If I block and punch, where's his arm going to go? Any number of places. He could have re-pulled his hand back, right? Punch and come back. Hey. I can still come over here at this point and grab his hand, coming in to the arm bar. The whole concept of, you never grab his arm. Yeah, maybe. But if I hit him. Now, I'm going to add a couple of concepts to that. So that's my basic. Block, punch, take the hand, or block, grab, punch, take the hand into the armbar, both sides. One more time. Block, grab the hand, punch, come over the top. Here I can be reversing the wrist into the armbar. Okay? And I still have this at my hikite. Come around the other side, do the same exact punch. I'm in this position, grabbing, punch, coming over, I'm bending his wrist here. Have the wrist lock, armbar position. Okay? Now we're into our tuidi with the reverse wrist. Okay. That's the basic right and left. Now, just to add on, let's take a look at the wrist grab attacks. So typically we'll have a cross-hand wrist first. If he's a right-handed guy, he grabs cross-handed to punch here, okay? From here, I can re-grip in this position. Now what does my punch become? Well, it can still be the punch or the nakadaka punch here, right? Or it can be the elbow break in this position. Then this becomes my hold lock in the kata, okay? That's a cross wrist for here. If instead he grabs straight across, again, with the intent of punching with this hand. So it's going to be a cross wrist to punch right or a straight wrist to punch right. Either one. In this position, this becomes my re-gripping, stepping offline, and again, whichever punch. Now I have my tuidi lock with his elbow pulling. If I don't pull his elbow in, I can still drive forward, but if I use my hikite here, he makes a lot of funny noises really quickly. All right, let's get a little closer to camera just for these. So these are a little more advanced concepts. The re-gripping, he's going to grab with his left hand, either straight or across. I don't really care because it works the same way. I'm doing my first kata move, hikite. Second kata move, strike. I am in cat stance, so I can always kick from a cat stance. Then I'm going to go hikite and punch across. Right there. Okay? Does that work? You okay?
Yep.
Okay, just checking. All right. If instead of grabbing straight across here, which is where I did, he grabs cross hand, it simply becomes a single re-grip. Still the same technique. The only difference is instead of coming with his wrist bent, this way and across, I now have his wrist bent this way, but I still pull in and lock. So it's this wrist lock as opposed to the other version, okay? Straight across, re-grip, strike, pressure, push across, right? If I really wanted to jam, instead of trying to take him down, I would punch these knuckles straight here, and that would really make a sad day. So I have this position, or I have, this position. Okay. From just a punch, instead of coming here, I can come around his head, torque. Do that very carefully. So I'm coming around, pushing up on his jaw, pulling back here, or using my wrist bone on his neck. And I'm going to yank this shoulder hard and push that jaw. That's a little meaner. Okay? Those are some options. But the very first one I showed, simply block the punch, grab, hit, bring the wrist over, arm bar. That's our basic. All of the other variants are a little more advanced, but very effective. That's our Seidokan Saturday for today. First 2 bunkai. Oh, and then reverse all of that for the left hand, by the way. Okay? So when I go to the other side, everything just goes to the other side. Should go without saying, but I didn't want it to go without saying. Oh, last thing, before I go, I lied. Last thing I was going to talk about is re-gripping or grip from the wrist. So whichever wrist he grabs, I can either grab with the same hand or I can come across and use the other hand to reverse. Okay, so I can grab him at the arm. I can grab cross-handed. There are all sorts of possible ways to get a hold of his wrist. Up and break, right? Here, around, up, around, other hand. And come under this way. So there are all sorts of different ways to, anytime somebody puts their hands on you anywhere, that's where the fight begins. Okay? And from that position, then we begin to react. Right? Okay, so practicing, and I'll do later a couple of drills for just gripping, re-gripping, wrist escapes. And a lot of times it's taught that way because, again, even from a punch, now I grab the wrist, I'm in the same place I would have been had he grabbed the wrist as a tap. If he throws a roundhouse club and I step inside the arc of the club, once I get in here and I get a hold of something, now I'm in the same position as the wrist grab. So the wrist grab practice is a good way to initiate familiarity with how you're going to respond in other cases. He grabbed the lapel, I can still go to the same position as my wrist grabs. So let's come a little closer, camera. If he grabs lapel, right, I can try to get to the hand, or I can go straight for the radius and ulna and break this way, okay? Or break this way to release the grip. Or simply take the thumb, right? Push in this way. Break the thumb backwards. Here, bend the thumb inwards, here. Okay, so there are a lot of ways to approach, and this gets into some of our tuidi techniques, and like I said, I'll give you some drills and concepts for how to get to those positions from the various attacks as well. That's it, thank you, I start rambling. Until next week, as always, let's keep practicing.